Hey, John, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. I know this is kind of a departure from your normal places of hanging out as of recently, but I really appreciate this. And I think you'll find a lot of support within this community for sure. Um, we've got right about an hour. Can you give us an hour? Is that fine, or do you have somewhere to be?
An hour should be completely fine.
Perfect. Yeah, I got to go pick up a rental car. We're heading out to Arizona, so I got to go pick up the car. So
Nice.
I just got done throwing a medicine ball around. I'm covered in mud. I was going to take a shower, but I didn't get a chance anyway. It's because I know I'm interviewing a big fitness guy, so I had to do a workout this morning to get pumped up for this. So most people know a fair bit about your story. We know you've been in recent years for a number of years you've sort of followed a plant-based vegan diet. You've been a lot of people have held you up as an example of physicality, as sort of a physique competitor, bodybuilder. Certainly, and then obviously your brother, and I've talked to your brother before, and you guys are both, obviously very fit guys, and you have some either it's work ethic, genetics, probably a combination of both. I mean, anybody that says genetics, I say you got to put the work in, and that's the deal, no matter where you're coming from. And I often, people will tell me, because obviously I'm on the other side of the spectrum with this crazy carnivore meat-based thing, and people say, well, even people in the carnivore community say, well, guys like Jon Venus are taking steroids, and no offense, John, but I mean, you have a really good physique, but I'm like, he doesn't look like a dude on steroids to me. I mean, I've been lifting for 40 plus years, and I mean, I know what you can attain without the drugs. And I mean, while you've got a very, very good physique, but I mean, you're not going to walk onto Mr. Olympia and go, I'm Mr. Olympia. I mean, that's what drugs are about in a lot of cases. And I know there's people that take drugs that aren't huge and stuff like that, but I find it very plausible that you can do what you did without any drugs at all. And even in a plant-based diet, which I think is putting yourself at a disadvantage, but I mean, it certainly shows the dedication and work you're able to do even with a little bit of a disadvantage. But how long have you been training, John? How long have you been lifting and stuff for?
I've been lifting for 9 years at this point. Seriously, at least, as a teenager, I would go to the gym maybe a couple times a year, but consistently and seriously all in for 9 years.
And how old are you now?
29.
29. Yeah, I mean, I started lifting when I was 14, and I've been hardcore ever since. I mean, or 13. I'm 40 years into this stuff, and so it never goes away. You just kind of keep plugging away and hope that you stay healthy. And by 30,
For
you
sure.
can, and this is a good time to put on mass and strength. Late 20s, early 30s. I think I peaked in strength around 30, 33, 34. So let me ask you, I mean, and I know, and we'll probably talk about, I know there's been a number of, people that have changed their mind on diet and nutrition. And I think that's fine. You do whatever you do. And even in this carnivore community, I tell people, don't be zealot about it. Do what works. If you need to add something back in, please do that. Don't feel like you're stuck in any ideology, because it's not. It's just about getting healthy here. It's what every one of us is here, because we fundamentally believe in getting healthier, and that's the only goal we have. If we can better the way we produce, food through animal agriculture, particularly regenerative agriculture, many of us support that. I think we care about how our food is produced, but I don't think I've seen the level of sort of vitriol in anyone that has come out that has been directed at you. I mean, it seems like maybe because you were so iconic in the vegan community. I mean, you were the guy that would say, hey, look at Jon Venus. And there's Nimai Delgado and some of the other Tour Washington, some of these guys would say, look at these guys, they're great role models. And I don't know if it's because of that, and I understand, becoming a parent, it changes you. It really, really does, because, the little baby can't tell you. I mean, they can't say, hey, I don't feel as good as I did last week. And it's really, you're kind of a little bit hoping, and I know there's a lot of data out there that's put out there saying you can make the diet work, and it is suitable for all ages and stages, and as you know, that literature was produced by ethical vegans, and there could be some bias there. And so you have to question that. And then if your own health starts to fail, then you really have to, some people will pivot and say, well, it's not about health, it's just about the animals. But I do think human health counts. And I think we can make a better, healthier, more sustainable planet with healthy people. And we can also do good by the animals with, regenerative techniques. But anyway, I've been talking so much. So Jon, let me give you a chance. So how long would you say you practiced a plant-based or a vegan diet?
Yeah, so I was vegan for over 5 years. And I didn't even have a transition period. I watched a documentary, and then I decided there and then that I was going to go vegan and try to live this lifestyle that didn't support what I saw in the documentary, which was essentially factory farming, and these practices that, seemed horrendous to me at that point. So yeah, it was 5 years, straight away, quit meat and all the foods that I always loved. And, they're always my favorite food. Growing up, I always have chicken hearts and rump steak as a staple in my diet, and barbecues twice a week. So it was just something that clicked in my mind in terms of, okay, here is something that I don't agree with. If I'm going to do something about it, I might as well, go all in from one day to the next. And that's how I did it. And I started sharing my journey on YouTube and social media, about the things that I learned about, the factory farming systems, and the ethics behind veganism. And at that point, I already had a YouTube channel for maybe 2 or 3 years. So I did have a following of maybe 30, 40,000 people or something like that. But that's when I kind of branched out and became this person that was doing something a little bit different in the online space. At that point, there was no one else really doing what I was doing, which was, vegan health and fitness lifestyle. So I kind of, I was one of the first, if not the first person to do that. And during these 5 years, I've been, the person who's been the most consistent in promoting that message, and been traveling around the world, and giving multiple speeches every year, on, plant-based nutrition and that kind of stuff, and fitness. So like you were saying, the reason why there is such a backlash, such a huge reaction to me not being vegan anymore, is definitely because I, was some sort of pioneer in this space. And I've been involved so deeply in the community. I'm probably one of the most well-connected people in the vegan community. And it was a big shock to everyone. And that is why I think the backlash is so much more extreme than a lot of people have experienced in the past.
Yeah, and you mentioned chicken hearts. So is it Brazilian, your background, and then you guys live in Norway or somehow? How does that work?
Yeah, so I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I barely ever lived in the States. I probably lived in the States a total of maybe like 4 years or something like that. And the rest of my life I've spent in different places in Europe, Brazil. So my dad is Norwegian and my mom's Brazilian. So that's why we kind of have those two kind of cultures ingrained into our life. And again, both of these nations do eat a lot of meat and animal products, just like most nations around the world. So we grew up on a healthier diet that did not consist of a lot of junk food. My mom was always into health, and we would not be allowed to eat candy and Twinkies and these things and cereals like other kids. So we always had a good starting point, and we always knew the value of eating healthy because of my parents and how we were raised. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird mixture, but it's basically a mixture of Norwegian dad, Brazilian mom, and living in all kinds of countries around the world.
So 5 years vegan, you're 29. So and you started lifting when you were a teenager. So how much progress had you made prior to going vegan? I mean, what did you weigh? Were you already in a competitive environment at that point?
Yeah, so I've never competed in anything in bodybuilding, or any sport, so to speak. I tried becoming a professional soccer player, and that was like right before I started lifting. But that didn't go too well because I never trained for that in my life, although I made it to second division, so I was kind of happy with the accomplishment. But apart from that, I've never competed. So I started lifting when I was 20. And when I was 20 and I started lifting, I saw immediate gains. Like most people who are into fitness and bodybuilding, you have those golden kind of months and initial years, the newbie gain phase, right? Where you gain a lot of muscle mass and strength in a very short period of time. So for sure, I mean, I made the most progress while eating a very meat-based diet in the first 3 years of lifting. I don't know exactly what I weighed. Maybe it was about 75 kilos, which in pounds, I don't know what that is, maybe like 175 pounds or something like that, around that area. And I was able to build a lot of muscle, and got maybe up to, I'd say 85 kilos, maybe 100, 190 pounds or something like that, more or less. So that was kind of the first 3 years, which were amazing. I was at that point because I was eating a lot of junk food. Being out of the family where, you know, I grew up eating so healthy, it was kind of nice to just eat as much as I wanted of all kinds of bad foods as well. So that is why I think I noticed some really great benefits from dropping those processed foods and going to a plant-based diet. Was that I kind of felt more energy. My digestion got instantly fixed because I've always struggled with slow digestion and constipation. So that was one of the main benefits, which in turn got my skin feeling healthier and my acne clearing up. And those things just fed into, you know, the bias of that the vegan diet is the optimal for health and fitness and all these things.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of people, and you know, I certainly don't think that a plant-based diet, a whole food plant-based diet, is, you know, necessarily a junk food diet. I think a lot of people can get healthy when they clear that out. And I think there's this ideological push that it must be the animal products when you eliminate these things. And the caveat I would say there is I think a lot of people, particularly with dairy, do have problems. And I think acne, it's something that dairy can lead to for many people. I mean, we see that when people give up, because we have many people here in this community that feel better when they give up dairy. So I think you have to separate meat from dairy as two different sort of, you know, entities. And, you know, it could be that you gave up animal products, and in that issue, it was dairy and it was cheese and it was also junk food. And now you feel better, you know, and you might still be, you know, maybe not ideal. So you go, you know, you put 3 years, you're training, you put on muscle, you're doing well, you know, you start eating junk, you see your skin starting to deteriorate, and then you go on a vegan diet. And then, so how much progress were you able to make? You know, I assume you did you know, a whole food plant-based diet. My guess is you're probably supplementing with some protein powders of some sort to get the protein you needed, but maybe not. Can you just talk about how much progress you were able to make, how you did it as a vegan, and then, you know, we can kind of talk about what kind of made you decide that it wasn't for you anymore.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say I was able to continue to make progress. I never had an issue plateauing. And I mean, I was still in my 3rd year of lifting, so it would be strange to plateau at that point if you had your workout regimen on point and you're eating enough calories, enough protein, etc. So I was able to build muscle at a continuous pace. You know, maybe it was not optimal. Maybe I could have built more if I was eating animal products. That is kind of hard to say. But I did notice that my progress did not slow down, which was something that I was kind of expecting to happen because, again, I didn't see any examples of bodybuilders out there when I started. So I was kind of going into unknown waters. But with that came a lot of kind of experience and expertise, which allowed me to make videos about it, how I'm doing it, and help other people do the same. But I'd say I was able to build a good solid, you know, 10 to 15 more pounds over the last 5 years of muscle. And naturally, no steroids or any kind of drugs that enhance performance or anything like that, apart from supplementation, which I think, you know, whether you're vegan or not, everyone is taking supplements or protein powders in bodybuilding. So I was definitely doing pea protein and you know, different blends and that kind of stuff. And I always figured that, you know, if you're able to hit your calories and you're able to hit your macros, your protein, and if you're taking protein powder, which has all the amino acids in the right amounts, then you should be completely able to, you know, build muscle on a plant-based diet as well. And that was what happened for me. Of course, you know, that was not taking into account all the other processes and you know, things and nutrients that may not be as bioavailable on a plant-based, you know, on a plant-based diet, because obviously there is different levels of absorption depending on what you're eating, what you're pairing your foods with, and that kind of stuff. And I was always trying to be as aware of that as possible. But at the end of the day, I realized that I was, getting feedback from people that I was coaching on a high level. When I started high level coaching, instead of just doing more generic meal plans and workout plans, I started, realizing that people that were following this lifestyle for a long time had different gut issues that, didn't allow them to absorb certain nutrients properly. They weren't able to convert certain, like provitamin, vitamin A compounds like beta carotene, for example. Even B12 supplementation that was not working for a few people. As we know, like some people absorb different B12, strains better than others. So there's a lot of different issues that I was able to find when I started this high level coaching, and really trying to get to the bottom of people's health issues. And that was pretty recent. I've been doing more generic stuff that was more efficient, didn't take a lot of my time for many, many years. And when I really started getting down to the nitty gritty and into the details of everything that could be an issue, then I started realizing some issues that could be, caused by prolonged periods of not having those bioavailable nutrients in their diet.
How much protein per day were you eating? I mean, a lot of people will say, if you look at the literature, and I've interviewed some of the top protein researchers in the world, Stu Phillips, Don Lamus, and these guys, and they say, for muscle building, and Jose Antonio, they're around a pound per gram, a gram per pound of body weight. What were you looking at, for your needs as a physique competitor, or as a physique athlete, I should say?
Yeah, I think I was always trying to prove that we didn't have to rely on a lot of powders. So I was always trying to have max a scoop of protein a day, right? So like 25, 35 grams or something like that. And the rest I was trying to get from things like tofu and tempeh, and just whole foods basically. So I was never really able to get too far above maybe 0.65 to 0.8 max, per pound. Which seem to be sufficient. I know some of my friends who are competing, they have a higher intake, especially if they're cutting down and on a caloric deficit, your needs go up dramatically. But I never really had to go down to those body fat percentage levels. So I never really paid much attention to hitting that 1 gram per pound of body weight, or even higher, as some other researchers in the fitness space kind of recommend based on recent studies. So I would say, we don't know what the best kind of range is, or at least the fixed range is. We have a range that we can experiment with, but I'd say it's not really a necessity in my eyes, because I've been doing it for so long and have coached a lot of people for so long, to get much above the 0.7 to 0.8 grams per pound. I've never seen an issue with muscle gains being hindered by not getting above 1 gram per pound, for example.
And you pointed to tempeh and tofu, which are obviously soy-based compounds, and soy has the best, probably the best amino acid profile among the plant-based options, because it's fairly high in leucine, which is one of the critical nutrients, for muscle protein synthesis by mTOR. I've seen there's been some recent research looking at potato proteins, and I think mycoproteins, or fungi, mushroom proteins basically, which also looks reasonably promising from the plant-based side. So you're humming, so you're 3-4 years into it. What was there at what point was there sort of a doubt in your mind? Because it's anytime you adopt almost an ideology or a belief system, you sort of might say, well, that's unrelated or something. At what point did things add up enough to you to say, this may be an issue that I'm having problems?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, when I started doing high level coaching and just having weekly consultations and really trying to get to the bottom of people's issues, I quickly realized that a lot of people, or some people that I was working with, and a lot of people that I knew online and was listening to on different shows and podcasts, these people have conditions, and these are extreme cases, but there are people with serious autoimmune conditions that cannot absorb any nutrition from plants at all. And immediately when they start introducing animal products, and I had to recommend people to introduce animal products to some of my vegan clients. I've been vegan for a very long time because I just did not see any other way to get them to feel healthier. So that's when it kind of became clear to me, when I recommended these people who were as ideological and ethically kind of decided on this lifestyle. When I saw that they improved upon the introduction of animal foods, and all these issues kind of subsiding, or at least improving vastly, it really made me think about what is optimal for human diet, and what is the plant-based diet, as I've believed for so long, is that the optimal diet for human beings. And because of this issue, and also other reasons, what this issue allowed me to do with my clients is look at the other side of things, and not just go to nutritionfacts.org or to Michael Greger and to Neil Bernard and these guys for information, but actually try to be open to other sources of information that did not have the same ideological viewpoint as me, just to get a more kind of holistic view of things, and chronic health conditions and how to treat them. And with that, a lot of information did come in terms of problematic aspects of a 100% plant-based diet. And my position right now is that I have people in my family who are 100% vegan and have been vegan for years. I know people who've been vegan for 20 years. So I can't say, because of all that I know, I can't say that it can't work for everyone or for these people, but I know that it can't work for everyone. That is my position after I learned all these things. And that changed everything, because my whole belief was that it could be the optimal diet for everyone. And once that was gone, I had to start questioning the whole ethical question, because, if it's not optimal for everyone, then how can eating meat be wrong in itself, right? So that was kind of like the rabbit hole that got everything started.
Yeah, I think, my hope, and, obviously I've been sort of a vocal, so I wouldn't say opponent to veganism. Well, I mean, I guess, I've tried to point out where I think there's problems and I think there's misinformation. And, Michael Greger, Neil Bernard, I truly believe that they are trying to help people. I think most people are doing a vegan diet because they believe that they're helping animals and they want to do the best for their health and their family. I just think there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of confirmation bias, and we see it here too. We find studies that support what we do. It's just natural human nature that occurs. But there is a lot of conflicting data out there, and it's really hard to say what is the best diet. And the people that claim this is the optimal diet for all humans and all humans should be on this diet, I think that's dangerous thinking. And I don't promote that with a meat-based diet. I think, for the people that are in this chat, in the thousands now, the tens of thousands, and probably approaching 100,000 or more people that have done this, that has been more effective for them. And I think we have to realize that there's a spectrum upon which people thrive. I think when it comes to the animal ethics side, none of us are out here, glorifying the fact that animals are killed for our sustenance. None of us promote, animal abuse or animal cruelty. No one does that. It's kind of like this George Floyd thing. No one thinks his death was in any way acceptable. I think there's a better way. And I don't know how much you've sort of looked into this different animal, husbandry type stuff, animal agriculture. There's regenerative techniques. There's ways where you can, in particular with ruminant animals like cows. When you see what their life is like, it's not stuck in a box somewhere, which is what we hear about, and it's not some awful experience. Sure, they die at the end of the day, and I know you talked about hunting, and I know you got a lot of backlash about hunting, which I think again is also a lot of misinformation. People don't understand the value of hunting and why we do that, and the actual need for hunters. But it would be nice to see some of these people, say yes, some of this factory farming techniques, some of the close quarter, techniques are not good. Let's promote something better rather than to say we're going to abolish all animal agriculture and live on, monocrop agriculture, and which is more productive or destructive to the planet. So let me ask, so I know there was some sort of thing about eggs that occurred several months back, and you got a lot of sort of backlash about that. So you obviously, this wasn't a decision you took lightly and, just said, I'm just going to start eating meat. I mean, I think you probably testing. So tell us about, like, when did it start to, for you personally, when did it start to say, I'm going to sort of see what happens?
Yeah, so I would say, and vegans hate me saying this because they think I'm putting the blame on my own child or anything or something like that. But the truth is that when I became a dad, I started questioning things, 10 times more, right? I had this responsibility to make sure that I was 100% comfortable with the way that I was going to raise my son. And with personal experience, I do know parents who are 100% vegan and they have vegan kids. I know people who have had vegan kids who are now in their mid 20s and they seem healthy. So there are cases out there, but at the end of the day, I just didn't feel comfortable with all the data that I was seeing that was in direct conflict with what I previously believed. And I didn't feel comfortable just basing my decision on a few anecdotes, and just a few people that were succeeding doing this, as opposed to something that has been done, for millions or hundreds of thousands of years, which is eating animal products and thriving on animal foods. So it was just a more of a parenting call. That is what happened. And a lot of people just ask, well, that's fine, but why did you switch from a vegan diet to incorporating animal foods? You could just eat, give your child animal foods and continue being vegan yourself. I got that question a lot. And for me, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. And it would create this whole weird situation and family dynamic where you're kind of telling your kid that you're a good person for not eating meat, and but you need it because it's kind of necessary. There's a bit of a strange family dynamic, and it doesn't make sense to do that for us personally. And it's fine if someone else wants to do it. It just doesn't feel right for my family. So once I started kind of wanting to experiment on myself, that was when I made that video about the eggs. So I made a video like months after I actually tried those eggs, but I wanted to see as a short-term experiment, after hearing from people who've been vegan a long time, who felt immediate results after eating a couple of eggs and just some animal products. I wanted to just to see if I felt any difference. And of course, I only had 3 eggs, and I didn't really expect that anything was going to happen with this small amount. But maybe if I was missing something huge, maybe I would have felt something. But I didn't. And, I felt like, well, I didn't feel much. So I'm going to continue on this path for a little bit longer and see what happens, just continue to do my research. But then, I had to make a video about it because, for one, I do know so many people who have struggled and feel so much shame in experimenting with animal foods and feeling better. So I felt like making a video just explaining my situation and why I kind of had doubts, and why, as a parent, I feel like there is not enough evidence and it's not just a black and white thing. And when I made that video about my little 3 egg experiments, that was like, a huge backlash from the vegan community, right? So a lot of people started making videos about me saying that I was never vegan and these things. And a lot of criticism was directed at me just for trying, and saying that, if you have doubts, if there is something that you feel you're missing and you just want to try eating some animal products, it's okay to do so if it gives you a peace of mind. And that was completely unacceptable for a lot of people in the vegan community. So that was kind of like the first big backlash that I got. And that was probably like, I don't know, like 6-8 months ago or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's unfortunate. I mean, I think, I mean, certainly you can, if you believe that you're minimizing suffering, you can find a minimum amount of animal products that sustain you, and
Right.
still limit, because it's limited. What I keep told is limited to all practicality. Because I'll point out, look, there's crop deaths, there's pesticide usage which kills animals, there's farmers shooting animals to protect their crops. I mean, that occurs. I mean, it's intentional too. It's not unintentional. It's intentional deaths. And so you could, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can make that argument. But so, when it comes to raising a child, there's 2 parents. You've got a wife who, my understanding is either a nutritionist or a nutrition expert. so what was her thought on, I mean, is she vegan? How much input did she, I assume she had a lot of input. She'd have to. So what was this conversation with her like?
Yeah, so we do everything together. We've been together for 9 years now, so we discuss everything, and we are always trying to be on the same page and go through this journey together in every way. So it's never been something that I kind of rebelled against and she was completely against or something like that. No conflicts or it's funny because a lot of people have been making videos now kind of micro analyzing her facial expressions in the video we're together and saying that she's repulsed by me, and then there's a divorce coming and all kinds of crazy stuff. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, we were in this together, and she is a nutritionist, and she's been helping people with this on a plant-based diet for a long time. And when I learn something, I share it with her immediately. It's not like I'm just sitting on all this information. She has a completely different opinion, so we keep sharing information with each other. And we also meet the same people, we hang in the same circles, so we kind of have this experience that we kind of share at all times. So she was observing the same thing as I was observing, and therefore we came to very similar conclusions.
Yeah, I mean, I've got, it's kind of interesting. I started a little Facebook group about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, maybe it's 2 years. It was a basically restoration health vegan recovery group, because we had a lot of ex-vegans that were, doing that. And I read about, I can't remember who it was, some actress said she had a piece of salmon, her brain rebooted. And, I kind of raise my eyebrows when they say they have one bite of meat and it's like their life changed. I find that a little bit hard to believe. But I mean, I do think, the reason I put up that group is because many of them are slowly introducing animal products in their diet over weeks and weeks and months, and they get better slowly. It's not like instantaneous, like some people maybe claim. Maybe it is for some, but I find that probably be a little bit less believable. But so did you find at some point, I mean, obviously there had to be some dread to come out, and say, look, I'm no longer vegan. I mean, you knew was coming for you. And so was there a point where, was there a relief ever when you just said, okay, I'm out in the public, I'm done with this? Did that give you a sense of relief at any point?
Yeah, it was definitely something that I was not looking forward to doing, just because I understand the reaction that was going to happen because of that, because we've seen people in the past doing it and what happens, and there's a lot of shaming, name calling, death threats, all kinds of stuff. So I was not looking forward to it, but every day that I waited after making that decision in my head was kind of like, this is like, I need to share this. I can't really, move on without actually publicly announcing this and sharing this with people. So it was difficult because I didn't want to jump the gun and talk too quickly. I had to wait, a little bit longer just to have more of a kind of, more of a solid mindset to be able to speak without a lot of emotion and without a lot of kind of fear and whatever, like or too much arrogance and confidence. So just trying to feel ready for the moment to do that. It didn't take long. It was only like 5 weeks after incorporating animal products that I publicly told people that I did. So I was really expecting a lot of hatred and a lot of criticism, and criticism is completely fine. Like, there are a lot of questions that it's impossible to answer everything that I've learned, everything that I have changed my mind on, all these different opinions. It's really hard to do that in a video or even in 10 videos. So obviously when I made that video, it seemed extremely confusing because I was trying not to justify anything. I was just saying how it was and a little bit of the reasoning behind my choice as a parent to do so. But not being able to provide all of my reasons and make a good case for it, which I could if I wanted to, but at the same time, didn't want to try to debunk the whole movement or something. So it was like it was a mixture of all kinds of stuff. And I think the climate now with the virus and everything makes everyone extra on edge. So it could be something to do with that as well. But I was expecting slaughter, but this was next level stuff, and I was ready for it. I've been on social media for so long that I've really learned not to take these comments and messages.
Oh, we lost you, John. John, I think your signal broke up, unfortunately. You guys still hear me okay?
People take it to the
There
next
you go.
level and, start bullying and hating, and that's definitely not a good thing, and puts the vegan movement back a couple of steps when other people who are, not familiar with the whole situation, when they look at the reaction that these people are having for someone leaving their vegan lifestyle, it does make it look like a cult and a very unattractive social movement to get involved with. So I think it's really counterproductive. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm ready for the hate then, and it hasn't really slowed down, to be honest. Like, there's probably like 200 videos made over the last 2 weeks about me on YouTube. And I guess the hardest thing, which, it's still not that bad, but like the hardest thing that can happen is when, if family and friends and close friends actually, want to cut the cord and not have anything to do with you because you're no longer vegan. And luckily that hasn't happened to me with family, but it has happened with a few friends. And that is a little bit sad. But at the end of the day, you realize that that doesn't constitute real friendship and that kind of stuff. So, it's a little bit of a learning curve, and you learn from these situations as always. And you get to know who your true friends really are.
Yeah, and I imagine, obviously your brother is still a fairly large vegan advocate, and
Yeah.
I suppose that's got to be a little bit of an odd dynamic now. Is that a little bit weird for you guys right now?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously he was the first one to go vegan in the family, and he's a doctor now, and kind of trying to, be the vegan doctor, to, represent the movement and science and that kind of stuff. So, he is in it for life. Like, he's really, and I was too. I think all vegans that are vegan for ethical reasons think they're doing it for life. But for sure, like, we're very extremely different people. So I'm the opposite of him, and he thinks in a very different way. And we did have long debates about this, and of course, like, there are different ways of looking at things, and different people believe in how to approach science in different ways. And a lot of people, who are vegan doctors and researchers, they do believe in the idea that if you do not have good evidence, you should go with what is available. You should be able to make conclusions and recommendations based on the evidence that we have available, no matter how poor the evidence is. And I have a different perspective on that. I don't think that that is a right way to approach things, especially not for these public figures like Neil Bernard and these guys who, go on to really big podcasts and, like London Real, for example, and compare eating meat to smoking cigarettes, and cheese to, taking heroin and these things. I think it's really counterproductive, and it doesn't really represent the truth of what the science is really saying.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was on London Real. I met, with Brian, and we had a discussion about both Neil Bernard and Michael Greger. And he basically said he felt that Neil Bernard was very much an ideologue and was never going to change his mind. And he thought Grieger was a little bit more open to the science. So it's kind of interesting to see his perspective as he's, as he's had experience with both those. And I do, I talk about, when we have weak science, and we make decisions based on, I do think it's problematic. I think you can use evidence. Your own personal experience becomes evidence as well for you personally. I mean, we've got every person in this room, almost without exception, has noticed their health dramatically get better by going on a meat-based diet. We've got Brett sitting here who cured lifelong depression. We've got Tracy who couldn't walk at all, a few months ago. Now she's out walking again. We've got, person after person in here that's lost weight, improved diabetes, got off meds, got off psych meds, got off all kinds of medications. So there is something going on here that I still consider that evidence as well. And, we've got study by Harvard University coming out that's going to be done on this carnivore population. You started including animal products back in the diet. Let me ask you, what are you including right now, and has that made a difference? Have you noticed an improvement in either health? So I mean, because you put a picture up the last day I was vegan, and you looked like you looked a little bit emaciated. Obviously, pictures can, there's different ways to make that,
Yeah.
you can flex in one picture and not flex in another, and you can always make it look worse
Yeah.
than it is. But I mean, what's the difference been to you now in these couple of months now that you've been, reintroduced to animal products, and what are the animal products you're eating?
Yeah, so I was never really, struggling with health issues as a vegan. I did have a herniated disc, which, really set me back, massively in my fitness routine and muscle gains, all these things. But apart from that, I didn't have any, serious health conditions. So I didn't really expect anything to improve. And I took a picture, every single day for, I think it was 12 or 14 days, and from the same light, same mirror. And this is the picture that you're talking about from the last day of being vegan. And I started eating mussels and clams and backyard eggs. That was like the first kind of initial experiment and what I incorporated first. And I didn't really notice that much apart from my skin tone changing, my eye, like my skin around my eyes filling out a little bit, and these things that maybe seem ridiculous to some people, especially in the vegan community. But for me, as I can, see myself in the mirror in detail every single day, I did notice a difference there. And that was kind of unexpected. And the other thing that I noticed immediately was my muscle cramps kind of subsided quite a bit. So I've had pretty extreme muscle cramps after intense workout sessions for the last 2 years. And no matter how much, zinc and magnesium and even supplementation I was incorporating, I just didn't seem to get over this cramping issue. And, after a couple, even a few days, I think, a week after, I was not experiencing the same level of cramping at all. And since then, I've only had, one or two smaller and less extreme incidences of cramping after intense workout sessions. So it's definitely improved a lot in that sense. And who knows what the reason, for that is. There are many different, options and possibilities, but those are the two main things. And, my back, who knows, I can't blame veganism on my herniated disc or anything like that, but my back is feeling really good. It could be to do with the fact that, Corona and the whole thing has just, not allowed me to hit the squats heavy or anything like that. So it might be just my back getting the rest that it needs. But it's, I'm feeling better in my joints and that kind of stuff. So that's, something as well. Apart from that, there's no real difference. I do feel a little bit more energy, but there are times when, I was extremely energetic as a vegan as well, and times where you're less, depending on, caffeine consumption, how much junk food you're eating, sugar, oils, all kinds of stuff. So it's really hard to pinpoint these things, especially when you're not coming from a very suboptimal situation, or when you're really struggling with a deficiency or a health condition. Then you can see massive improvements and make those connections. But for me, the line's a little bit more blurred. But I do feel better, and at least aesthetically, just by looking at my skin, my eyes, and these things, I can see a difference.
Yeah, I guess, well, you're still in Norway, correct? I mean, you're still up there,
Yeah.
and are they locking back down? I mean, are you able to go to the gym now, or what's the status out there?
Yeah, they just opened the gym, so I've been to the gym twice, and yeah, so that's why I can't really say how my training is now after incorporating animal products compared to when I was vegan, because I haven't had allowed myself enough time to see if there is any difference apart from those two sessions. And I got dumbbells that and bands and these things that I was really trying to do my best with. And and that's how I kind of figured out that the cramp was getting better, is because I at least had those dumbbells and barbells, and I was able to do 20-30 sets of biceps and still be okay, which was impossible before. So yeah, who knows what's going to happen now. Some people are expecting me to blow up and become the next Mr. Olympia or something like that. That's not going to happen, just to be real. But I'm sure I'm going to feel better. Maybe I'm going to have less joint pains. My back is going to feel better. I'm going to be able to maybe get to deadlift again. Who knows what's going to happen, but I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, not that I'm suggesting you try carnivore diet, but I can tell you a lot of people in this community have noted dramatic improvements in joint health. And as a 3-year-old guy. I mean, I did what I do, 365 deadlifts for 50 reps every minute on the minute yesterday or day before. And, uh, it's interesting to me, and like I said, at 29, I felt pretty damn good. At 45, I didn't feel quite as good. At 50, almost 54, I feel great again. So it's pretty interesting what nutrition does have, the impact it does make on your joints and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are you with your parents right now in this? Is it the whole family together, you and your brother and your parents, or how are the meals around the house now? Is that sort of an interesting situation?
Yeah, so when I lived in Spain, and I've moved away from Spain, but I lived in Spain for the last, I'd say, like 4 years, and that was in the bottom half of my parents' house, and they're all vegan, but we had a separate kind of apartment. But now I'm in Norway, which I'm visiting and staying with my wife's parents, and they were never vegan, right? So it's not an issue here. So it's never really been like, my parents are fine with the decision. They disagree completely because obviously they're ethical vegans, and so is Leo and my little brother, and people in my family are accepting, but they're against the decision, right? Like, because if you're vegan, you have to be against the decision of going back to eating meat, because that is just that is just how it is. And for a lot of people, I'm not saying that is the case for my family, but for a lot of vegans, they make veganism their core identity. Like, this is who they are. They are the actual term itself. They're not, mechanics or family people. They are veganism, and they are vegans first and foremost, and they are doing everything in their power to end animal suffering and animal cruelty and these things. So it's really hard to see people disagreeing or leaving that way of life and not feel attacked to the deepest sense possible. So I understand, I know where people are coming from when they're so frustrated and so sad and angry and hateful. I understand why. It's because they are so ingrained in their own identity as a vegan, and anything that goes against their core beliefs will create that reaction.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, because your parents, I don't know when they adopted veganism, but you and your brothers were not raised as vegans as child. You were given meat and those things to help you grow. And you're obviously, for your
Yeah.
child, you're doing that decision. And Leo is not a parent, or is a parent. I don't know his status.
No.
So is he mentioned that if he raises children, he'll raise them vegan? Has he talked about that?
Well, he believes that a vegan diet is or can be optimal for all humans. So naturally, I'm guessing he would do that. Um, and I think, most, if not, I think all ethical vegans that I know, they would never consider not raising their kids vegan, because it's just a way of life. And I respect, I think everyone has the right to do what they feel is best, and I just hope that nothing happens to any of these kids. We do know healthy vegan kids, and I'm not saying that it's a child abuse or anything like that, because there is definitely a way to make sure that you're doing the best possible vegan diet for yourself and your family, but you will never get rid of the risks. In my opinion, in my new belief, I don't think you can ever be 100% certain that is going to be the best choice, which is why I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of data out there, showing that there can be deficiencies. It's hard to supplement. There's maybe nutrients we don't even know the effect of yet. I know recently people talk
Right.
about choline and creatine and carnosine and taurine, and those things typically aren't supplemented on a vegan diet. But it might be that your kid, is fine and healthy, but loses 5 IQ points, but they'll never be able
Right.
to know that. So it's kind of one of those things you just don't know. Um,
Yeah, I think with the when researching kids and children, there's extremely limited research, as you probably know. Like there's you can follow kids and babies and toddlers for a couple of years, and it's all based on questionnaires and food macros and calories, and not really specific nutrients, no blood tests, nothing that would be considered unethical in the research methodology, right? So it's really limited what they can do with kids. But to be very honest, like even the studies, and I've been talking to so many experts and the people who are leading the vegan and plant-based kind of health, revolution. And the studies, there are very, very few. And the ones that do exist are really not painting the picture that the vegan diet is optimal. They're painting a picture that vegan slash vegetarian, which are always somehow grouped together, are potentially, good enough. But some of these studies actually show, that these some of these vegetarians slash vegans do have, lower body weights and stunted growth. And these are studies that are actually, used to promote the safety of vegan diets for children. So if you even look at that, the stuff that you are being sent, then you can see some issues and some question marks. And of course, you can say that, it's because they, vegans, there is a higher chance that vegans are maybe more, alternative in their way of living. Maybe they do like exclusive breastfeeding for too long. Maybe they're, eating or giving their kids too many, cruciferous vegetables, or who knows. But the fact is that there is no, real research that suggests that, a plant-based diet for kids is the optimal thing. So, that's, I just still haven't seen to this day anything that would suggest that.
The one question there was, a lot of people will say, things like depression, anxiety, cognitive clarity. Any change in that? Or did you ever notice, including animal products, did that improve your mental well-being at all?
No, not really. I think for people who do struggle with these things, again, like if you have a pre-existing condition and then you change your diet, you'll see some benefits. But I didn't really struggle with that, so I don't think there's a big difference there. I think like some brain fog, I think it's normal if you're eating junk food and you're maybe drinking too much coffee or stimulants and these things. Who knows, like, what the reason for these kind of cognitive ups and downs are. But I'm still only 8 months, not 8 months, 8 weeks into this kind of way of eating. So I feel like, if there will be benefits, it will take me a little bit longer to notice them. But so far, I haven't really noticed a change in cognition or anything like that.
What do there's a lot of people that will say, you were never really a vegan. Anybody that leaves veganism was
Right.
never really a vegan. And to me, I don't understand that, because that means the only way you could be a vegan is to basically die. I mean, you could be vegan for 50 years and eat an egg one day and you were never a vegan. How do you understand that argument? I don't get the argument.
Yeah. So there is a bunch of arguments that vegans tend to make that I've never understood or kind of supported as a vegan myself, right? So that is an example of one of them, and it's being used all the time, like every single day on my social media right now. Like, oh, this guy was never vegan; he was vegan for the money, and now he's not vegan for the money. It's all about the money, and he was never vegan, right? So it doesn't make any sense, because if you are something, then you are something, and if you're not anymore, you're not anymore, and that's just how it is. I don't see that as a logical kind of statement to make at all. But it's funny because people, again, because these defense mechanisms are so strong, they really have to, come up with these excuses, because they just, maybe there is something that potentially subconsciously, is a threat to them. Maybe I say something that maybe challenges their belief and their way of thinking a tiny bit, and they're scared and afraid of that. So they have to come up with these, attacks to, just keep, that belief system going, and feeding off of each other, and all these people who are throwing hate and criticism. This is just how it is. Like, if you want to support your own beliefs and your bias, you jump on the offense, and you kind of, you group together with people who support your own biases, and you just keep putting those people who are against your kind of point of view down, and try to drag them down, and discredit them completely as humans. And that's just, unfortunately, the way that a lot of vegans operate. And again, I know so many amazing human beings who are vegan, and I have close friends and family who are vegan, and they are not like that. So it's not to say that everyone is like that. They're amazing, humans who are doing all kinds of different lifestyles, and generalizing too much is something that I don't like to do. However, unfortunately, veganism does bring a higher percentage of these people into their movement, for different reasons, like exclusivity of the diet, and the exclusivity of how little people actually go to the streets and hold up these iPads and posters, and you go out and become activists. So there are many different reasons for why there's a large portion of the movement that is operating that way. But at the end of the day, there are loads of good people who are just, like me. They believe that it is absolutely unnecessary, absolutely the healthiest thing to do is to be a vegan. And for those people, I understand why they're vegan. I was there myself. So, I don't blame them for the choices that they're making.
Yeah, when I look at the people here and we talk about people, I mean, there's not a bunch of murderers and rapists and animal abusers in this people. I see just people that want to do the best and be healthy as they can be, and that's what their main goal is. Just one last question, Jon. Are you getting? I mean, what has been the overall? I mean, are you still getting a lot of support, or is it mostly just hatred? Are you getting anybody behind the scenes that's saying, "Hey, I'm a vegan, I feel the same way," or "I want to support you"? What's been the overall? Because obviously we see the vitriol and the hatred, but I
Yeah.
mean, there's got to be some support as well, I hope.
There's definitely some. And again, I try to focus on the positive, and I don't let the negative pull me down too much. But there is definitely a huge amount of negativity. And I'd say it's probably more like 95% or something like that. But the support is there. And that 5% of support is what really is, positive, and what I really focus on, not because I can't handle the negativity, but because these are people who are going through struggles, who are actually have been through the same thing as I've been through and have come out the other side, eating meat again and questioning their ethics and their belief systems. And then you have other people who are still vegan and still plant-based and still representing, and people who are public figures in the community who are showing support privately. They can't do it publicly, of course. That would be suicide. But there's a lot of support, and I appreciate that. And I think what I want to do, and through these interviews, is just to get people to understand that there is, no matter what you believe in, and no matter how right you think you are, it is that you truly do not know, everything that there is to know. You truly don't. No matter how deep down your own belief system you are, there is always new things to learn, and there's always new experiences to experience, and you cannot understand what you don't understand without experiencing certain things. So it just leaves a kind of sour taste to see that so many people are just so judgmental without any context. But I do, really applaud anyone who's vegan and who has been showing support, and who's just, being honest and transparent and sharing their issues online after I've come out and talked about this, because there are a lot of vegans who are actually talking openly about their issues publicly in my social media comments, and trying to, get people to understand that it's not black and white. It's not that easy to be 100% healthy for everyone. But even they get knocked down in the comments, and they get vilified as well, and so it's a bit of a strange thing. But I do really see the positivity. I do see the support, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I appreciate your response. It's been you basically just kind of throw back, say love to everybody, and I think that's a great way. And I think it's going to turn around, and I think 6 months from now, when this all blows over, you'll have quite a bit of support there, because I mean, I think the cream rises to the top, and anything we can do to support you, we're here to do that. Our community is open to anybody. I mean, anybody that seeks health. I mean, that's what we're about, and we're not judgmental in that way. And I think that's if somebody wants to do a plant-based diet, that's fine. That's fine with me. I fully support their right to do that. the problem becomes when they try to tell me what I should eat and what I can't eat. And that really is something that I disagree with. Anyway, Jon,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Unfortunately, I got to go. And like I said, best of luck. And can you tell folks where to find you online and where they can go to maybe even give you a positive message? Because I think you need some more of that.
Yeah, so my main social media platforms are YouTube and Instagram. So if you search my name, Jon Venus, on Instagram or on YouTube, I should pop right up. And yeah, I try to make consistent content on both of those platforms.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thanks again, Jon. Have a great evening. And
Thank you.
like I said, take care of your family and good luck to you. And hopefully we'll run into each other in the future. Okay.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay. Bye, guys.